Well, video game and esports related stocks are making notable moves as of late, with consumers over the last couple of months looking for additional entertainment outlets as the coronavirus pandemic forced them indoors. But can we expect this trend to see continued gains? Here now to talk about this in more detail is Jay Jacobs. He's head of research and strategy at Global X ETFs. Thanks for being here today, Jay.
Thanks for having me.
So clearly there's heightened interest in the video game and esports trend right now. So what stands out to you the most in terms of what we're seeing in this space?
Well, we're just seeing incredible engagement with video games. So, the story of March and April was people were stuck at home, the weather wasn't that great, and they still needed entertainment. What can you do on your couch? You can watch streaming TV. So there's a lot, huge surge in Netflix subscriptions over the quarter. Or you can play video games. And we saw a huge growth of revenue across the video game industry. In the US, across the industry, it was about 9% year-over-year growth that past quarter. And if you look at some of the bigger names like Activision, we saw 21% revenue growth. So clearly people are spending a lot of their discretionary entertainment dollars on video games to keep themselves entertained.
Yeah, well, now that a lot of people are either getting more into their routines at home, or some of the stricter stay-at-home orders in some areas are lifting, do you think that this trend can really have the staying power here now for this foreseeable future? Because I guess life as we know it is still pretty far away from getting back to even a new normal.
It's a question of stickiness around this theme. So have people changed their habits in a way that's going to stick and continue in the future, or is it going to kind of reverse and normalize with the trends that we've seen in the past? When we look at video games, though, we see a lot of stickiness, because what you're seeing is, of course, people are spending more time on video games than maybe they otherwise would if they could go outside or go to a sporting event or something like that. But we also brought in so many new people into the video game and esports community. Think about Gen Xers who maybe haven't played a video game in 20 years are now playing a video game with their kids, or baby boomers that are playing video games with their grandchildren. So you're expanding to a new audience. And then we've also seen huge growth in the esports space, which is pulling in people who have never really watched competitive video gaming before. So we had hundreds of thousands of people watch NBA players play each other on NBA 2K20. We saw millions of people watch racers race each other in virtual Formula One. This is building a new community of esports fans, and some of them will stick. So this means we did see an acceleration, or we will see an acceleration in this theme over the long run.
That's interesting about esports, with those sports stars really getting involved on that front and gaining traction. And esports seems to be going somewhat mainstream now, but do you think that the heightened interest really can last at these elevated levels when we do start seeing those major sports leagues start getting back to their normal schedules and stealing some of the eyeballs away from esports?
Absolutely. I mean, this was a real learning experience for a lot of these leagues about how they can interact with their fans in the future. I don't know if the NBA or the NFL or Formula One would have totally understood this digital versus physical divide that we have in the world right now. But COVID-19 and the stay-at-home economy has given them kind of a crash course in this. So if you're the NBA and you just saw hundreds of thousands of people want to watch your NBA players play a video game online, they're absolutely going to start promoting this in the future as a feature, a way to watch your favorite players, kind of play each other in a different setting, wearing different things in their homes, a much more informal environment where they can talk to each other. So it's changing the game. It's changing how these leagues will interact with their fans, and it's changing the product that they're going to offer. Yes, they will still offer the games on the court or on the field, but I think there will be a new area of virtual gaming where we'll see, fans and players interact.
Now, when you talk about the video game publishing industry, that's a somewhat cyclical business tied to, the popularity of certain titles that are coming out, and even new generation devices that these games are sometimes being played on. Does that concern you at all, the somewhat cyclical nature of at least part of the industry?
It doesn't, and it's because the industry is really trying to move away from that cyclicality. So if you think about the video game publishing industry, it used to be like Hollywood. you'd spend hundreds of millions of dollars up front developing these massive, massive games. And then you just sold them on a copy by copy basis. You went out and bought the game, you'd spend your $60 and you could play that game to death, or you could play it once and never play it again. Just like Hollywood, you go and buy your ticket, you watch it, that's it. The way that the video game industry is evolving is to try to make more revenue off of those higher usage players. So if you buy GTA 5, which is, a very old game at this point, people are still spending money to buy digital items in that game, to buy upgrades, to buy access to new areas. So you have these very intense players who are not just spending $60, they're spending hundreds of dollars on the game. That really allows the smoothing out of revenue over time and eliminates some of that cyclicality around these big feature releases.
So from an investor standpoint, when you're looking at some of the major publishers, whether it's Activision or EA or Take-Two, they had really massive moves from, I think, 2013 to 2018 or so. And the performance hasn't quite been on that same level since then. Do you think that they're really turning a corner here, and that the coronavirus, in a way, was somewhat of a catalyst for spurring a new level of growth?
Absolutely. I mean, as I mentioned before, the Q1 numbers were extraordinary, and that was just capturing kind of 1 month at best of kind of the impact of the stay-at-home economy. But here are the drivers going for it. One, you have the emergence of the Gen Z generation, which is going to start spending more and more money on video games. They are true digital natives, just behind the millennial generation. You have the expansion of people who are playing video games, those Gen Xers, those baby boomers that maybe moved away from video games that now just got sucked back in. You have the recurring revenue model that they're trying to introduce, where people are going to have more in-game purchases. You have advertising. So these games, really don't do that much on advertising, considering how many hours people spend gaming. It's a huge opportunity to deliver advertisements to players. That's essentially a recurring revenue or an incremental revenue on top of selling the actual title. And then you have esports. You have the competitive aspects on top of this game, where you can sell sponsorships, you can sell tickets, people can participate in the competition itself. So there's so many avenues for revenue growth that we're just scratching the surface of right now. I truly believe this is going to be kind of the dawn of a new era of video games, where they are fully monetizing these very powerful platforms.
And in addition to investing in the video game publishers, another way to play the trend is through the Hero ETF from Global X. And talk to me about how investors are getting exposure to this trend through other areas like chip stocks exposed to the video game industry, in addition to those publishers.
Absolutely. So we're investing in the entire video game ecosystem. So of course that includes, the software developers that are publishing those games. It includes the companies that are building the hardware, the consoles that the games are being played on. It's investing in, the peripherals and the components that go into some of the games, whether it's, controllers, microphones, headphones. It's the entire ecosystem. And when you look at the video game industry, it's, again, it's kind of like Hollywood. It's, are people going to watch more movies or not? It's a question of, are people going to play more video games or not? All of the demographic trends we're seeing, all the engagement trends we're seeing are pointing towards more and more video game engagement going forward. So we really think it's a rising tide is going to raise all ships here, and we want to own the entire industry and benefit from the continued emergence of this powerful trend.
Well, we'll have to leave it there for now, but thanks so much for your time today, Jay.
Thank you.